Welcome to episode number 1 of Recollection Step, a Grand Archive TCG podcast, part of the Main Deck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Taylor. And today we're going to be going over some Alchemical Revolution spoilers, a little alchemical review, if you will.
Oh, and I will. And Taylor, by the way, welcome to podcasting. How's it going? It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's going great. I'm very happy to be here. It's very exciting to kind of get the chance to hang out with you guys and chat about one of my favorite games.
And join the Main Deck production team. So you've been a longtime local area player of all sorts of TCGs that we played. And Grand Archive, I think it's safe to say, captured your heart.
Yeah, 100%. This is very much skyrocketed to probably my favorite card game. I'm not sure if it overtakes Magic yet or not, but I'm certainly playing a lot more than Magic. So
yeah, me too.
It's got a lot of really cool it factors that just really drive home for me.
And I think in set 3, it's about to get just off the wall.
Yes. Yeah. Set 3 looks like it's going to just really upend everything. Or at the very least, like give a lot of extra really powerful pieces to the metagame for people to play around with.
What I'm most, I think, excited for, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but just the introduction of the 3 new classes. I mean, like, when you talk about upending the metagame,
yes.
Like right now we're using our 8-card sideboards to try and prepare for 6-7 different archetypes or whatever that I think are like reasonable ones to play. And I expect that to just be like, you can't possibly have a single card in for every deck, even just one card in your sideboard.
Yeah. 8 cards already feels like extremely tight. And so, yeah, just there's going to be no way to cover the spread like that. It's even with like the material deck, you're going to get taken by surprise quite a few times, I think, throughout the next few months.
Yes, especially at Ascent or I keep trying to say Ascent Orlando, Ascent Ontario, very different part of the country, where you and I are both going to be there as we scored our VIP tickets. We got very lucky.
Yes, yeah, it's very exciting. We were right there ready for it, but yeah, it's always a little nerve-wracking when those pop up. But
yes.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy about that.
That's going to be the first like true showcase of the set 3 metagame. I expect absolute nonsense. I don't know about you, but
yeah, no, 100%. Ascent Houston was awesome, and that felt like there was a fair amount of nonsense, but like this is going to just crank it up to 11.
Yeah. I expect to totally like get destroyed by some like random cleric deck or something that's using some combo I've never even thought to use before. Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be sick. So today, yeah, I mean, before we get a little too far here, what we do want to do is review sort of what we've seen of the Alchemical Revolution spoilers and just talk about things that have stood out to us. But before we do that, I just have a couple of things I want to mention to our lovely viewers and listeners out there. First of all, if you do enjoy this, our very first episode of Recollection Step, there are a couple things you can do to show us that. Leave a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Go ahead and comment down below. Let us know what you think about anything we are talking about today. I read every single comment that comes in, and I respond to an awful lot of them. So just go ahead and drop down below if you have a comment for that, or if you're listening to us on a podcast platform and that platform happens to allow you to like review the show, like on iTunes or something, a positive review will help us start to grow a little more right away and find our audience. So I would really appreciate you doing that as well. Now, if you want to support Main Deck even further, the best thing you can do, the easiest thing you can do to support Main Deck is shopping on TCG Player using our affiliate link. We have an affiliate link that you can use, and it'll be linked down in the description or in the show notes, depending on where you're checking this out. Or you can always just type in bit.ly/shoptcgs. That's bit.ly/shoptcgs. when you go to this link, or if you type that in, it'll bring you to the TCG Player homepage. But here's the secret. It's going to be using our affiliate code that whole time you're shopping. So you just shop like normal. And then as soon as you're done shopping, TCG Player sends us a little kickback for your order. It doesn't cost you anything extra at all, but it supports our channel quite a bit. And we really do appreciate all of the support you show through likes, subs, positive reviews, or that TCG Player link. So thank you guys so much for your support. With that out of the way, Taylor, why don't you guide us? Let's talk about Alchemical Revolution, the most exciting set since set 2, which, it's set 3, but
yeah,
it's exciting.
It's really exciting. I'm before we dive into the specific cards, I just want to take a quick kind of minute to talk about I'm really excited about the world and the world building they're doing with the set. It's very just hitting all the notes. All the cool, like, weird steampunkiness is so much fun to see on the cards, and it's just such a fun contrast from like the medieval Camelot world that we were just on.
I'm really excited about that in particular because Camelot is fine and cool, but it's sort of this like well-trodden path. A lot of, there are anime that just like straight up like are like Arthurian legends already and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's been done a million times. It's just a trope, right? To do like Camelot style stuff. So I thought it was a nice thing to kind of ground everything in, because it made it lowered the bar for weebs to have to like come up with their own distinct story and characters and everything. But I'm so excited to see them delving into not only thematically a very different world with all these sort of the Magitech, Magipunk, Steampunk, whatever stuff, but then having to just create their own story and characters entirely. So far, from the characters they've shown, they are, banger characters all the way through.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all 3 new champions look really cool. Their styling is just fantastic. They've made 3 very distinct, unique characters, and they're just a ton of fun. The unique non-champion characters also, I think, are just incredible. Yes.
We got to preview Dahlia here, which was really exciting. Huge fan of Rose. I'm sure we're going to talk about her in a little bit, as well as the fire one,
Crimson Tear.
Crimson Tear. I was like Bloody Tear. I couldn't quite remember. Yeah, Crimson Tear. Yes. I'm super excited to talk about all those. So where would you like to start? Where should we kick this thing off?
Well, let's start with the champions. The level 1s, level 2s have been all revealed, and we have a really good idea of how they work. Level 3s are all kind of a mystery at the moment, but that's fine. We've
seen them, right? But it's like, the text doesn't mean anything.
No, it's what is Tonorus is like what, like you summon 3 different obelisks like once per turn or something like that.
Yeah, which do something.
Who knows? Yeah, impossible to tell. But their level 1s are great. Arasana, I'm actually gonna skip her. She's got this really cool gather ability where she generates potions when she levels up. Which is really neat, and you can use those or not potions, catalysts.
You gather reagents.
Yes, and you can use those catalysts, reagents to activate your potions. But we haven't seen a ton of potions yet, and we haven't seen a ton of ways to like play with the reagents outside of potions. So I think we'll just kind of like leave her for a minute. She's still a little too mysterious, I think.
Yeah, I think we're like very potentially big Arasana fans, but it would just be such idle speculation.
Yes.
Baseless speculation that it's like I bet her potions are good. Like maybe.
Yeah.
So
it's impossible to tell. But yeah, Diana looks really cool. Her level 1 just has basically no effect as far as level 1s are concerned. Yep. Which is just wild to see on a character, on a champion, considering everything else has had some sort of like meaty benefit so far. Even like Xander low key gets to glimpse too, which is like, that's not irrelevant. That's a real ability.
Yeah.
Where she just kind of hangs out. and jumps into her level 2 Deadly Duelist, where on enter she materializes a bullet card from your material deck, so very similar to Lorraine 1, and has inherited range 2. But that's when her level 1 finally gets to activate, and you can lineage release level 1 similar to the new spirits from Fractured Crown, and materialize a gun from your material deck. So she hits level 2 and basically gets to materialize a gun and a bullet right off the bat, which is very powerful. But it's interesting because it just shows this this design of like pushing to higher levels as like a necessity to play a character that we haven't really seen yet. We saw a little bit of it with Rai and needing to get to level 2 to like start taking advantage of his mage spells and generate those enlightened counters. But at the very least, like he gets like 2 enlightened counters right off the bat and can play with that. Whereas like Diana is she really wants to get to level 2 right away.
Yeah, it's more like she's starved of resources.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't get any, she doesn't get that sword to play with that Lorraine gets. She doesn't get the enlightened counters to potentially get a card draw or something. It's just you're stuck with whatever you draw until you get to 2. But then when you get to 2, you get potentially, something much stronger than getting a random small sword that Lorraine has, and you get a bullet, and you have that range 2 effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's giving up a little more on the front end to have a stronger mid to potentially late game. But again, like the level 3, we don't, something about creeping stuff. We don't really understand what it means.
Creeping Torment, I think is what it was. But it's just an interesting kind of design for her. I'm really excited to play around with it because so far it seems like all the decks have either been like camp level 0, level 1, or go straight to 3. And Diana, seems like there's going to be a little bit more range to where you can get to 2 and then stay there. Like range 2 is pretty decent as well if there's good distance enablers. So yeah, she's just going to be kind of like another good unique design for people to play around with.
It is, I think, fairly dependent on the distant enablers to really get, I think, a lot of the value out of Ranger. I think so. This is my early, again, like somewhat baseless speculation, but from like a competitive standpoint, I would just guess that guns and bullets are a little more finicky, a little more disruptible. Like straight up, like you can fracturize guns. You can like there's you can blow them up with stuff. Her one she showed is a little more resilient, but there are still, it still dies to like Acolyte or something if I remember right. So but it's that ranged ability that I think from a competitive standpoint is the first thing that I think about is like a way to push a lot more damage than expected as long as you can like reasonably enable it. It's the kind of thing where it seems like a lot of these cards have it being sort of like it's there in addition to a general like advantage ability that you would on a card you would like typically play, meaning that if you line everything up, you're getting big value on your plays. It's like you're getting that effect plus then you're setting up a big damage swing or something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And jumping into her, like the spoiled gun that we have so far, the Seeker's Rifle, the 0 cost regalia weapon she has with class bonus True Sight, class bonus Spell Shroud.
Right.
So she'll always have those. So that's going to get around your Spurn to Ashes, your Disintegrates, your Fracturizes, which is really great. Still dies to Ruck and Acolyte, unfortunately, but you'll see it's also got on kill. You may pay 2 reserve if you do materialize a bullet card from your material deck. So kind of what I'm getting from this is it feels somewhat Lorraine 2-ish as well, in that you get, once Diana gets to 2, gets her gun, she gets that range 2, so she gets the attack bonus potentially if she's distant, and then also has a way to generate resources on kill in a similar fashion. She's got to put more work into it, but potentially the payout's higher.
It's interesting to see the on kill trigger there. I'm very tempted with all these ranged units to really like max out the damage I'm dealing to the opposing champion. So like the Seeker's Rifle certainly feels like a card that you would want to play in a deck that's maybe attempting to be a foil to a more aggro-focused meta and playing more general board control. But it's also the only gun we've seen, and it's not going to be the only gun in the set.
Mm-hmm.
So this could just be the, with True Sight and with that on-kill ability, it could be the like, well, I'm playing the board clearing one, and maybe there's going to be another rifle, another gun of some kind that is more like aim for the head kind of effect.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, overall, very cool design. I'm very excited for it. So let's move on to Tonorus, the other new champion that isn't Arisana. His level 1 Tonorus Lone Mercenary. First thing that you see is 20 health. So again, same with like Warriors from set 1. Just huge health pool, which is awesome. His on enter is Tonorus gains taunt until the beginning of your next turn, which to me, it seems absolutely bonkers. When I read this, my jaw dropped. I was just like, this is insane.
I think this card's nuts.
It's so good. Ally decks are already like really powerful. And this just says, I'm going to go to level 1 and you don't get to interact with me for a turn, essentially, unless you're like Rai and playing a bunch of mage spells that's going to deal damage. But it's just so powerful.
I think if you are starting your testing, and we have more to see, but one of the first things I'm thinking is you're starting your testing for Ontario or whatever events you're going to be playing when set 3 releases. One of the first decks you need to consider in your gauntlet is going to be the Guardian Go Wide aggro deck. Like take the True Champion Gaming Wind aggro list, the Water aggro Lorraine list, take whatever you like from that, slap in Guardian, and like not quite auto win, but like your odds against other aggro decks are just like through the roof at that point. Like you are able to establish control of the board very quickly. It's very difficult for them to, like, you drop that Gildas, it swings, and you go, okay, it's probably gonna swing again next turn. Yep. Yep. Unless they're playing like the fire deck that's got incendiary fractals, focus flames, that kind of stuff. But it's good. I think Tonorus level 1 is like beautiful.
It, you know what? Actually, I'll call it here. This might be the best card in the set.
So we have an early call. I like it. That's why we have you on the podcast to have strong opinions.
I'm not afraid to make these claims. But I mean, yeah, like you look at this, it's insane. Just on its face, it's really good. And then we'll get into it some more later. But the Guardian mechanic, this set is Foster. And so if your unit hasn't taken damage for a full turn cycle, basically, you get a bonus of some kind depending on the card. So just getting this insane effect already and then enabling a bunch of other stuff that you could potentially just get for free anyway is like just so much gravy here. It's insane.
And one thing that I think is just kind of, I mean, like really beautiful, I think how everything lines up is typically with these go wide decks, what they're doing is they're kind of like, they're dumping hands for something like Gildas Math. It's not always for Gildas Math though. Just, they might not have Gildas, just dumping hands out and then using every materialized step to draw cards as long as they can stay on 1 until they go to 2. So they typically play Triple Bobble, play Grand Crusader's Ring, that kind of stuff. Now with Tonorus, I'm very intrigued by the idea of, okay, I'm going to dump out my guys. I'm going to play as many allies as I can. Maybe I play squirrels, maybe, just like whatever, get on board, do my swings. You have to crack back into Tonorus. And then end of your turn, during Recollection, whatever, depending on how I have the setup, I'm going to fast cure. I'm going to heal. I've gone down in my influence potentially below you from just playing stuff to board. I'm going to heal that damage that you took. And then I'm going to use that fast cure to level to 2, where I'm just going to like smash you for even more damage. I like that.
That's an excellent segue into his level 2, Might of Humanity. 25 health. So again, just tons of health. But on enter, Tonorus next attack this turn gets +3 attack. So you just dump your hand out, fast cure a little bit, use it to go to level 2. And depending on how many turns it's been, how many allies you've had out, like that +3 to his next attack could be like very lethal. Especially, we'll get to this one later too, but he's got like a 6-power attack or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got some big, he's got some big boy attacks to use.
Yeah. Like it's just, this guy is just going to stat check a lot of people, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, I think this is just the honesty check. Like, you know, if your deck, and I think we've talked about this a little bit in some of our previous stuff, but like Grand Archive is a game that gets quite competitive. It's a game where it's very easy to build a bad deck, and when you build a bad deck, it's very easy to lose to a good deck. But when when two players or when everybody in a tournament or whatever can build fairly competitive decks, it's an extremely compelling, nuanced gameplay experience. Kind of like a trade-off there, right? And Tonorus is going to be here, and he's going to guarantee you that if you are not respecting this style of deck, you're just gonna lose to it. Like it's gonna guarantee basically that your deck has to be ready to deal with his numbers on board, his numbers that you can't deal with, and then when he levels just out of hand, like boom, whoops, sorry, took you out.
Actually, I like that you brought up to like just the disparity between like good decks and bad decks in this game, where if you are both on good decks, it feels like a really good kind of fun back and forth. If one of the players on a bad deck, it doesn't feel good to be that player.
It's a beating.
But Tonorus, just with his inherent strength and the way he's going to like help players create like these linear decks, I think that just have a pretty high floor, like I think is going to help out that issue a lot and make it so that some of these lopsided matchups maybe don't seem quite so lopsided.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had a conversation with, I think it was with Tim Keefe at some point, who's a very well-respected Universus player who's dabbling in a lot of other card games too, who had asked me, I might have been on Twitter, just to like what I thought of the general complexity of the game. And if it was if it was a game that was in a state where it was just going to rise in complexity from here and sort of become, hard to approach. And the thing I'm really excited about in Alchemical Revolution is seeing Tonorus alongside Arasana and Diana shows me, I think that the dev team is cognizant of the potential complexity creep here. And I think their goal is to have a variety of classes that fit not only different play styles, but different like levels of complexity too. I would say that like, if I had to rank them, this is a totally off the top of my head ranking based on a limited number of cards we've seen in set 3 and then what we've seen so far in set 1 and 2. If you're just getting into the game and you're looking for a deck to play that doesn't tax you too much, that has, like you said, a higher power floor where it's like, even if you're playing suboptimally, you're going to get to win some games. You're going to be competitive. The easiest ones to play, like a warrior deck, Lorraine, like just stick with Lorraine for now. It's like good. I would say Guardian is just the next step, just like a slight step up, and potentially depending on the matchup might be easier because like, again, against aggro decks, you're just gonna be like, I just attack your face and you have to attack my face, but I'm going to beat your face faster being his goal. Then like maybe something like Tamer, which is like beating down, but requires a little bit more like finessing. You probably have Ranger in there somewhere, which is starting to get like, it's not quite as straightforward. Cleric, I have no idea, but it's probably on the higher end of complexity. Oh, Assassin. Assassin's before Tamer, I think. Assassin's also fairly...
Assassin has some really good options for just like beating down. It can get kind of complex too, depending on if you're trying to go to level 3 and play with Luxem. Like that's really where you kind of get to weird. It's got a weird spectrum.
It's right in the middle. It's the good. It's the middle ground, I think, because it's either going to be like this is the easiest deck to play, attack and then planted explosives your face, or this is the deck where I literally, if I'm down by 1 card when I go to level 3, I'd lose the game. And if I have the card I need, it's impossible to lose the game. Like complicated stuff. And then it's probably like Cleric and Rye are up there somewhere where like Rye really requires you understand a lot about the game to eke out those victories. And when you do, sometimes it's like, it seems like just total, like you blow the opponent out, but that was because you had all the game sense to kind of get there. So yeah, anyway, bit of a tangent, but I agree completely. I think like Guardian is a great lower complexity deck to play from what we've seen so far, but it is going to have a distinct play style to Lorraine, who's going to be often a little more like attack card oriented. Where I think those go wide decks, you're probably going to prefer to play them in Tonorous, unless you're making like a fun meta call, which I think is going to be the really exciting thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to lead to some fun tournaments, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so those were the 3 new champions. Sorry, Cleric, we just don't have enough information at the moment to really dive in. Like
you
we did
roll
here.
some dice and you make some things happen, and yeah, like once I think Cleric feels like if we saw Rise level 1 and 2, and we're like, here's how Rise is gonna play, it'd be like he's gonna die.
Yeah,
it's like, but then you see his level 3 and you go, oh, okay, that's what's going on. So. If we understood Arasan as level 3, I think we'd have a better idea, or we saw some more potions. But yeah, until then, she's cool, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Just hope for the best there. But moving on, we'll get to some of the normal cards here. We'll just jump right in with the new Academy Guide.
Starting high.
Yeah, the Dungeon Guide analog here.
So shout out to TM32s. They had a hilarious video spoiling.
Oh, yes.
I was a big fan.
Yes, very much so. That was hilarious. Let's see. So Academy Guide is a 3 reserve cleric, animal, human ally. 1 power, or 1 attack, 3 health. And champion cards you materialize cost 1 less to materialize, which is just insane. Like to me, this feels just like if you can keep this on the board for like 2 turns, you've generated a ton of advantage.
Can you can we just step back in our conversation for one moment to the character who makes it really hard for your allies to die?
Yeah, yes, we can. This plays extremely well with Tonorous and all of the Guardian support. It's bonkers.
I'm curious because it's not. I mean, like Academy Guide is obviously not an offensive powerhouse. So part of me I'm very curious about how strong that Tonorous level 3 is going to be. If Tonorous level 3s, if those obelisks or whatever are like wow, like if you can get a couple of these out, like you're dominating, then I can see 4 of Academy Guiding. Like all I want to do is drop the turn I level, so that when I go to level 2, it only costs me that 1 card. Maybe it's like you drop this and you heal up again. You use the fast gear or something, and then you just use that 1 floating memory to go to 2. Bash an ally or whatever, try and do whatever you can to keep the guide in play. If you can keep it in play, or God forbid multiple in play, there's a lot of advantage to gain.
Yeah, I mean, just like turn 1 on the play, drop Academy Guide, have something like Deflecting Edge or literally any
favorable wins.
Multiple. Yeah, there's so
how
many
gross is favorable wins with this, actually?
It's disgusting because it's hard to do 4 damage on turn 1 on the draw anyway. Like you can drop a couple 3-drop allies. If you're the right deck, you can do it. But then you get to there's still just so many ways to protect it.
I think decks will have to be less decks again, like the keeping honest deck, right? Like decks can't be as greedy. I would say like one of my early analysis points of set 3, even not even knowing things, is that decks are going to have to be less greedy. You have to play interaction. You if you're Rye, you remember the 30, 34 arcane card Rye decks that are just like, don't care what you're doing, I'm going to level. Well, losing Reckless Conversion kind of hurt the viability of those, but decks like that, I think, will now have more checks that are like, well, you didn't interact with me, so I also went insane. Yep.
Like Focus Flames is could potentially be an actually good card here. Well,
it already is. There's already decks playing in the current metagame. Yes. It's coming into play because of the rise of these, of like the True Champion Gaming Wind Allies deck, the Water Allies deck that's getting played. Like those, like you have to kill Gildas, and you have to kill Gildas through favorable wins right now. Like that's the key. And if you can't break 4 damage, then you're having trouble. So that's the one thing that Academy Guide has that I think is going to be okay, because we've already established now a metagame where, like, if you're playing fire decks that have the room, like, you should be packing things like Focus Flames to be able just to handle those things and not just get bodied by them because the damage is way too much early on. So those will still exist, and this is still answerable. But if you don't have the right thing at the right time, it's good.
Yep.
It's good.
The other thing I want to point out is the animal subtype is fantastic. Like everybody's always trying to hype up, Sylvie and find something that's going to really put her on the map and give her something, an extra, shot in the arm. And Academy Guide might be that card.
This is exactly the kind of thing that we've been saying. So like we've been talking about Sylvie, like Sylvie just needs good allies that aren't like, here's a pride drawback to get your ally to be like, it just needs cards that have good text on them, and then you just staple the animal or beast subtype on them.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited to rip open some of those and play with them.
Yep.
Let's see. Moving on. A couple more just like random fun norm spells. So Escape the Wreckage, 3 reserve, action ranger skill, fast. Return target ally you control to your memory, and if you do, draw a card into your memory. Great way to save allies from kind of whatever. You have to replay it, which is unfortunate. But drawing this replacing itself is very valuable in a lot of these decks that are going to want to just kind of keep the cards flowing.
The thing about these effects is that, sure, you have to reclaim. You have to reclaim. I might have slipped there. You have to replay them. Yes, but typically you're not just doing this like for fun. You're like, the end of my turn, I'm just gonna get rid of my ally. Like, it sounds good. It's going to be more a situation where you have an Academy Guide out and your opponent goes Focus Flames, and you go, nah, I'm gonna have you waste your Focus Flames, keep the Academy Guide, and then replace my card to +1 yourself. Or I'm gonna tease just a little bit. I'm gonna jump ahead because I'm sure we're gonna talk about Crimson Tier. Crimson Tier does say whenever you activate a reaction card that targets Crimson Tier. And wait, it's not a reaction card. Never mind. No, I'm done. Never mind. I missed it.
There'll be more reactions. Don't worry.
There will be. Oh, okay. Fair enough. I early set, we're still learning everything here, but shoot, Escape the Wreckage is not a reaction, so you can't draw a million. That's probably good, actually. That seems busted.
That's that. I bet that had reaction in development, and they were like, nah, this can't happen. No. It's nice to see this effect being applied outside of Wind, though. Mostly we've seen a lot of like the good, even protection spells. The protection spells where you don't go down a card have been in Wind, so it's really nice to see these proliferate a little bit more. I won't mind seeing them in Wind, like mostly in Wind, as it's kind of, if that's what Wind is going to be good at moving forward, but it is nice to just have a little bit more of that flexibility.
Yeah, and clearly, like compared to Reclaim, this costs 1 more, and it puts the unit into your memory, which is a riskier place to put it. That's usually that's now you might end up banishing it to level or something. Yep. You can't immediately use it to play another card, which is a thing you can do with Reclaim. You can bounce it and then put it down to play another Reclaim or play a Zephyr or something. So it's definitely a worse card, and is thus able to be kind of a norm element version of that. But yeah, I think this is a card that is going to be considered for some, especially for non-Wind ally decks.
Yes. Yep. Let's see. Next one, we'll just hit really quick, because True Champion Gaming did an excellent preview video with this, and
they showed the
power. Show you exactly. Into the Fray, 2 reserve, fast action guardian skill. Up to 1 target ally you control gets +1 attack until end of turn for each other ally you control. And with class bonus floating memory. Just very powerful card.
It's free damage, and it banishes itself to level you later. It's like, yeah, okay. So again, Tonerus, remember, like, we're gonna pay attention to this guy because he's gonna kill you out of nowhere.
Yep. Talking about how Academy Guide only has one attack in that deck. It's still a body for Into the Fray. Like,
yes, it is.
A lot of cool stuff going on there. Card you previewed, Navigate the Streets, 1 cost or 1 reserve, action ranger skill, glimpse 1+X, where X is the amount of domains you control, and floating memory. Very cool card to see kind of more of these like card selections cards come into play, especially like with Weebs figuring out a way to do this without actually just having you draw more cards, but still not be card disadvantage. Is really neat. This and like Scry the Skies are kind of two of my favorite, like just random card draw spells at the moment. I mean, this isn't a card draw spell, but it kind of is what they're going for.
There are decks right now that are just tossing Idle Thoughts in because it's a floating memory card, so you can like pitch it to Creative Shock. You do the things you want to do with it, pitch it to Hasty Messenger, but sometimes you can use it to like, just kind of find a card you need maybe, or look at 4 cards and go, oh God, this sucks, and put it back. So I like Navigate the Streets in those decks. If you don't have a direct interaction for Idle Thoughts, you're not playing like Idle Thoughts Tide Diviner or something. I really like having Navigate as an option, even if you don't play these domains, as a way to just go, well, I'm just going to like potentially move a bad card out of the way and have this floating memory, rather than being locked into whatever the next 4 cards are. I think it's a reasonable option there too.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on the triple threat Merlin list that you came up with for Sent Houston, and we've been just kind of iterating on that since then. I can't count the number of times I've been like, wow, Idle Thoughts, I would love to include this just because I'd love to get some more floating memory in the deck, but it just does stone nothing, because you have no way to manipulate the top of your deck outside of like an Orb of Regret. But like the selection would be nice, and floating memory would be nice, and Navigate the Streets, even just glimpse 1 floating memory is like maybe enough to get it in there. Like if you really want that selection and the constant floating, the unconditional floating, just being able to just throw that in there and get advantage with your Creative Shocks, or if you need to dig, you can kind of dig a little bit.
Yep. And we haven't, prior to this set, all our domains were like very much, you put this into play and that's the only domain you probably have in play, largely. But in this set now, we're seeing a bunch of domains that are more like they don't have upkeep costs. They can just kind of sit out and give you a very minor advantage. So I would say my initial take on this is that that's not a competitive deck style. But if we're going to be surprised by a bunch of other effects that are like where X is the amount of domains you control, then, like Fireball for domains, we need stuff like that. Then we start to at least have maybe like a tier 2-3, like casual-ish kind of deck that you can put a bunch of domains into play. When everything lines up, you kind of like, you're going off, and then you're going to Navigate the Streets and glimpse 5, and you're going to feel pretty like you're having a pretty good time then. I feel like it would take a lot to make the like heavy domain deck competitive though, based on the domains we've seen so far. Yep.
Yeah. The decks that are going to, I think if there is, I think we're not going to see these heavy domain decks just unless there's some like killer domain that pops up. So I think this is going to see play in some more like kind of combo-y decks that just really, really want to dig. Even if it's only like glimpse 1 or 2, like just glimpsing and replacing itself is potentially valuable compared to what else you would do. Like right now, I think there's a lot of like Idle Thoughts going around, and they're just not a good card.
Yep. It's yeah. Idle Thoughts. I think Idle Thoughts, when I did my initial like full set review of Dawn of Ashes, I think I said it was a bad card. And it's not a bad card, but it's not a good card. That's where I'm at with it. It's a card that I play when I need it.
Yep.
And then I lament needing it.
It's a card I want to see exactly one time, and that's when I'm on level 0 going into Xander level 1, and I never want to see it again.
I want to see it when I can like Idle Thoughts into the Deep Sea Fractal or something. Like that's fine. Those plays are good. We like those plays, but other than that, I'd like any other floating memory card in most situations.
Yes. Yep.
Digging, like, I want to be really clear because we're going to get comments or something on this. Digging 4 occasionally, like I'm not going to say this doesn't happen. Occasionally it finds you the Fireball or something like that does happen, but not the same number of times that you see just nonsense, just garbage. And you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For any MTG players who are familiar with Legacy, like Idle Thoughtsing yourself without having a way to like manipulate the top of your deck is the same thing as like brainstorming without, being able to shuffle. You put cards back, and then you're going to spend the next couple of turns drawing those same cards. And you're going to be kind of bummed out because you probably didn't want to draw those cards.
You know what the worst thing is, Taylor? When you idle thoughts and they're already in the right order and they're not good anyway. You're just like
just completely wasted.
Okay, I'll put these back then. And I'm not even excited. So anyway,
moving on.
Yeah.
Let's see. So next one is Seasoned Shield Master, a 3 reserve ally guardian human, 1 power or 1 attack, 3 health. One of the coolest lines of text in the set, I think. Whenever an ally you control becomes fostered, draw a card into memory.
Yeah.
And then also class bonus, fostered allies you control get +1/+1. This is him and Tonorus are just, I'm going to have a lot of fun making a lot of really dumb aggro decks. And I don't normally play aggro decks, so it just goes to show how excited I am about this.
Now he doesn't foster himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's he's part of a combination of cards that you need to get out. But the more you can protect these things, the more incremental advantage he can gain for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have multiple seasoned shield masters out and you have one thing that fosters, you're going to get multiple triggers. Remember, things can only foster one time too.
Yep.
They can't be fostered a second time if they've already been fostered.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a number of things that prevent this from being insane, but it is an exciting card.
Yes.
It's an SR too, actually. I don't think I caught that the first time.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes.
Spicy. You gotta dig for that guy.
I know. There's a lot of good SRs in this set. But yeah, a lot of the guardian cards though, like the good ones all have fostered or foster, not fostered, just foster.
Yeah.
So like those are cards you're going to be playing anyway. So he's essentially just going to be the banner knight of your guardian decks, and he's going to be potentially even better because he's could be drawing you cards. It's great. It's
Sure.
nice that he can come down. Like he can still come down later after you fostered a bunch of allies and still buff them.
Yeah.
So like he's good at all points of the game. He's just going to hang out and provide a lot of value. We skipped over this card, Organize the Alliance, just because it's not super exciting, but target ally becomes fostered with that. I don't even think they need the foster keyword. I think they just become fostered. So again, that can trigger his ability, or it can just give a buff. So lots of fun things you can do with this guy.
That is interesting. I don't know if I considered that. I'm trying to find a card that has fostered here to like.
Let's see.
Read the specific that has it written out here. At the beginning of your recollection phase, if this ally hasn't been dealt damage since the end of your previous turn, it becomes fostered. Okay. I mean, I guess I'm not positive if they need to have the foster keyword.
Yeah, we'll need some clarification on it. But from the way
sure
that
someone's
reminder
gotten that
text,
already, but
yeah, the way the reminder text is set up, it reads to me anyway. That's how that would work.
Yeah.
But
in which
correct
case,
us in the comments if we're wrong. But
yeah, it definitely let us know. In that case, though, you can foster your own seasoned shield master that way.
Yes,
and then make him a 2/4, and he'll draw a card.
Yes, it's not other fostered allies; it's just fostered allies.
Correct. So that's
actually really good. Yeah. Anyway, I could gush about him all night, so we'll move on. Let's see. There's another like cool normal card here I think I wanted to talk about. Nope. Just kidding. We'll move on to fire.
Okay.
There's a lot of like really cool, just like there's a lot of like neat ranged units in fire here. The first one is Airship Engineer, 2 reserve ally ranger human, class bonus range 2, and on enter if you control a distant unit, draw a card into your memory. Oh, and it's a 1/2. So it seems like just kind of a cool like role player for some aggro ranger business going on. It's a cheap unit, puts a body on the board, potentially attacks for 3. A lot of fun stuff. Could replace itself.
Yeah, the deck that can, again, like I think we're really hinging on how easy it is to make things distant. I'd love to see if there's like a spell, like maybe it'd have to be like an advanced element ranger spell or something that like makes all your allies distant or something. then I think you're cooking with gas at that point. But I like this card that just keeps your card flow going.
Yep.
In your sort of like your ranged ally focus deck.
Yeah,
solid.
Exactly. Another one, Automaton Bomber, 3 reserve, ally ranger automaton, ranged 4, which is like one of the higher ones we've seen, and class bonus floating memory, also 1/2. So again, just another solid card that can help keep the card flow going and potentially just hit like a truck.
Yeah, I mean this is Honorable Vanguard, but it costs 1 more, but it can do 5 damage instead of 1. It's like, yeah, like this is just in that like ranged aggro deck. This is probably, for the fire version at least, probably one of the bread and butter allies. You're gonna start by slapping 4 of those things in here because it's gonna let you level. And again, Ranger needs to level to 2 to like start to do things. So I think floating memory is going to be very, very important for Ranger to be able to do that effectively. You get it down early, it's going to be annoying. Your opponent's going to not want to kill it because they're going to give you the floating memory if they do. And then if they don't kill it, you're going to go, okay, well, it's distant now, and take 4 or take 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it.
Let's see. I think that's the 2 cool Fire Ranger allies. There's a Ranger reaction skill, Rocket Jump, which is a 5 reserve action Ranger skill reaction. Class bonus, though, costs 2 less to activate. Here is kind of a neat one. Target unit becomes distant. This is fast speed, by the way.
Yes,
Target unit becomes distant. If that unit is defending, deal 4 damage to its attacker. So, excellent way to distance your automaton bomber, kill whatever is attacking it and protect it, and then hit for 5 in return.
Yeah. Or this is actually a reaction. So the distant doesn't necessarily matter, but on Crimson Tier, it's just going to draw you a card. We'll talk about it in a moment, I'm sure.
Let's just jump into it.
Sure.
So Crimson Tier, 3 cost, unique ally, Assassin Automaton. Level +1, as long as Crimson Tier is attacking or retaliating against a human, Crimson Tier gets +1. And level 2+, whenever you activate a reaction card that targets Crimson Tier, draw a card into your memory. Then, if it's not your turn, wake up Crimson Tier.
I forgot it woke itself up too. Jeez,
this card is insane. Just absolutely bonkers. All of the champions that we've seen so far are humans. So Crimson Tier is, for the terms of beating face, is a 3/2 for 3, which is excellent stats. And then just being able to play all these reactions to protect Crimson Tier, and then just they all replace themselves for free, regardless of what they are. And potentially just like retaliate for 1 billion. It's bonkers.
Yeah, Tier's really good. Again, like I think a really funny deck thematically, right? Like for people right away, like Fire Guardian is probably going to feel like really strange, right? Because well, it's like aggressive Guardian, but yeah, like aggressive Guardian, like you put these Crimson Tiers at once, you get that +1 bonus on level 1. So that's, I mean, already you just want to go, okay, level to 1, taunt everything, Crimson Tier, smash for 3, have fun killing her. Level to 2 next turn, and now suddenly you're online. Now, like this is so sick actually, because they had that turn where they basically like had trouble dealing with her. They couldn't attack her. You level to 2. Now suddenly when they try to attack her, you play the reaction to prevent it once again to keep her on board. And now you draw a card when you do that.
It's just, it's insane. I'm glad you brought up Fire Guardian. That's kind of one of, like, Wind seems like the obvious choice for that, but I've really been digging Fire Guardian options. Dev Blow from set 1 is a Warrior Guardian card. So you get the class bonus for, what is it, +4, +6 attack on the attack.
Yeah.
At level 3. So like Guardian can definitely use that as an excellent finisher. Just lots of cool things going on there. The next unit to talk about is also Fire Guardian, Forge Light Shield Maiden, 3 cost, Ally Guardian Human, Foster. And on Foster, draw 2 cards and discard a card.
Oh man.
Class bonus, if a fire element card was discarded, put a buff counter on Forge Light Shield Maiden. and
this
starts out as a 1/2.
Creative Shock on a unit is, I mean, you have to foster it. Okay. So like, it's not just like on enter Creative Shock, because like that'd be whoo boy. But this card's obviously good. Like as long as you can get the, like, if you can get that foster, in some decks, they're just like not gonna be ready to deal with your Shield Maiden, or you're gonna be playing Tonerus because you just and then you're gonna discard a fire element flow. You're gonna discard a Tempered Steel or something.
Yep.
And you're going to get it suddenly be a 2/3. You'll have the floating memory. You'll have drawn 2 cards. It's like it effectively was just a straight draw 2 cards is how that mathematically works out. And it, oh boy, it's good. It's good.
It's insane. This card is absolutely bonkers. Like, people are already calling for Creative Shock to be banned, like right or wrong, and putting it on a ally is just insane.
I think the foster will make it reasonable. There's kind of like, I like fosters really a lot because there's counterplay to it.
Yes.
There's it's not a guaranteed thing, but that's not going to stop you from playing this unit. Like,
yes,
I think you're going to play this.
Yep. Well, and like everything, pretty much every direct damage spell except for Ignite the Soul kills this. Like even water can freezing hail it. Like, you've got options. Like this isn't, something that's going to come down and be impossible to kill or damage. So let's see, and then this other, like, well, actually, while we're still talking about Guardian aggro, we'll go to Blazing Charge, a 2 reserve fire attack Guardian Sword, class bonus. Blazing Charge gets +2 attack on attack until beginning of your next turn. If damage would be dealt to your champion, they take that much damage +1 instead, and starts as a base 3 attack. So again, just tons of like crazy aggressive options here for Fire Guardian. Like
5 damage, 2 cost attack. I mean, it's got the drawback. You're going to take more damage on the crackback, but it doesn't matter if they're dead. So
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Tonerus on level 2, the turn you level to 2 actually throws this as an 8 damage attack for 2 cost, which
is insane.
It's nutty. Yeah.
Fun though. Like wishes it could be this.
Yeah, it does. It's a higher risk gameplay style, the Fire Guardian, but I think it sounds fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree. And then kind of like an oddball aggressive card here, Inzali Unshackled Blaze, 3 reserve, unique ally Cleric Automaton, a 1 attack, 4 health. Class bonus, on attack, you may banish a fire element card from your graveyard if you do deal 1 damage to each other unit. So it includes champions. And then if you're level 3 or higher and have 4 or more memory, Inzali gets +2 attack. So just kind of like a really interesting card here. If there is like an aggro cleric build, this seems really cool. Even outside of aggro cleric though, like potentially it's Gildas-esque here.
Yeah, I mean it's the level requirement is the big difference, right? Why it's not going to be quite Gildas-esque, because level 3 is asking quite a bit.
That's a lot.
Obviously you're like, we're talking, that's like Verican Acolyte territory who does swing for 3, like it happens. And actually the important thing to note about Cleric is that Cleric does have an herb, to 1/3 of the herbs is a like temporary plus level boost.
Yes.
So you're able to trigger that level 3 a little easier than you might think. But it's that on attack that I think is really, really fascinating. I don't know how to gauge this card quite yet.
Yeah.
I think it seems good, but I think it's gonna have some plays, some board states where it's gonna be like insane. It's gonna give Cleric a lot of board control potential. The 1 damage to each other unit hits both champions as well, hits you and your opponent. So it does mean that she's swinging for 4 on her own if she goes to face, and potentially like clearing some stuff, some things out of the way, or like lowering thresholds to kill some other stuff. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through as well to get that to line up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on with this card. Like you said, it's just very hard to gauge at the moment what it is even going to be able to do on a regular basis. But definitely want to keep in mind, just because some of that is like just the on attack is just a very unique effect that we haven't seen yet. So,
yep.
That's kind of like the fire cards for me so far. But lots of hits there, just lots of extra, firepower, pun intended.
Yeah. Nice.
We'll move on to water here. Another sweet Guardian ally here, Awakened Frostguard. 2 reserve ally Guardian Automaton, class bonus Foster. And on Foster, you may banish up to 2 cards with floating memory from your graveyard. For each card banished this way, put a buff counter on Awakened Frostguard and draw a card. And then also Awakened Frostguard has Vigor as long as it's fostered.
This card's a pile of interesting, and I think this card is kind of hard to gauge the actual power level on. Banishing floating memory cards is not directly card advantage. To draw cards is not directly card advantage. It's in the early to mid stages of the game. It's similar to card parity. However, part of that is a little dependent on your general quantity of floating memory and how you get those cards, how you get the cards in there as well to some degree. If your deck is really, really floating memory dense and banishing 2 floating memory does not actually realistically impact your ability to then spend that floating memory to do your leveling or whatever later on, then it's kind of pure advantage. If you milled your way to those floating memory cards as well, then you're talking like you're kind of stacking advantage on top of advantage there. But you have to do that. You have to have that set up. You have to foster this thing as a Guardian, which is easier as a Guardian, but I'm saying there's a class bonus there too.
Yep.
It's a card with some potential upside, but it's got, again, it's a lot of hoops to jump through to find the value. I feel like.
I think I'm a lot more bullish on this card than you.
Okay.
Obviously very strong parallels to Frostborn Paladin. And both I think they're both going to be really, really excellent aggro cards. Because like you said, in the early game, floating memory is not necessarily card advantage if you're banishing it from your graveyard, because you can use that to level up. You can use that to play for any other material deck costs. But a lot of these aggro decks are often staying on, level 1 at the most, right? So that floating memory is just hanging out, and it wants to be gobbled up by this and lets you draw more gas and put more allies on the board. And being able to get 2 cards from your graveyard and get 2 buff counters potentially because of that makes this a 3/4 for 2, which is just an insane rate. With Vigor. So you're not gonna be able to attack into it very well to kill it. I think it's gonna be a very, very strong card if there's a Water Guardian deck.
We've already seen water aggro decks creeping up, so that certainly is certainly a viable potential deck. And now with the Proxy's Vault Scepter of Lumina also, that's actually interesting because the Scepter is obviously really sweet additional damage for that deck, but also then wants you to again have the floating memory to spend. But maybe you work those 2 things together and you run just more floating memory in general. It lets you either get free Scepter of Lumina or get Awakened Frostguard triggers depending on how you set it, how things set up. I do think that on Foster on this 1/2 is going to be the key thing about this. And if this was on Enter, I would think this is very potent, very potent card. The on Foster is the thing that still gives me a little bit of pause because it's only a 1/2 and doesn't do anything else until it fosters. So it's a little And then you have to be set up when it fosters too.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's like take away any one of these hoops, like, then I'm like, I'm happy, but I'll have to see it play. But you're right. 2 cost is low for the potential upside.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. No, and like, agreed. These aren't, trivial hoops even to jump through, right? Like, fostering obviously isn't free. And then, like, floating memory is a little bit more difficult to get into your graveyard in water. Like, it's got some good floating memory spells, but in general, you're not just discarding a bunch of stuff like fire.
It's weird. Water's got tons of floating memory, but it has to pay pretty significant costs typically to get it into there. Or just like, it has to fracturize. I mean, fracturizing something is something that Water's doing a lot now.
Oh, so. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. But yeah, I mean, this plus like just all the other support that Water aggro has gotten lately seems like it could definitely have a viable path forward.
Water allies is already kind of scaring me, and yep, seems interesting for sure.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, that goes right into the next one. Like our floating memory worries here for Sea Sprite Diver, a 4-cost ally ranger automaton. As long as an opponent has 4 or more cards in their graveyard, this card costs 1 less to activate. On enter, banish target card in a graveyard, and 2 attack, 3 health. So again, just like more things that are going to be pressuring the floating memory in your graveyard. We've seen it recently with raccoons. Merlin obviously is everywhere, and that is more than happy to eat up floating memory. I think we're just going to continue to see kind of, effects like this stapled onto stuff.
And not just like, obviously it's great against most decks, because most decks are going to have some amount of floating memory in their deck that they would prefer to use. But I mean, against the fire decks, especially these like the Rhapsody ones that you and I are big fans of, they're like, if they want to have 4 cards in their graveyard as soon as possible. They want the graveyard to be stacked as soon as possible. And Sea Sprite Diver is going to be able to come down in that, like, that sort of the turn 2 range, turn 2, turn 3 range, where it's like just gonna disrupt that Rending Flames just enough. It's gonna be like its cost lowered so that it can remove 1 fire card from the graveyard, and now there's only 2 fire cards and a norm element card in there. Now the opponent's turn is just a little weirder as they're trying to set things up, or it's going to join a raccoon to just like shut the fire player out of the game or something. So yeah, it's good. The card seems like it's nice to have a raccoon that's a little more powerful and have it be like element bound specifically. I like that.
Yes. Let's see. Were there any other really cool water cards? I mean, Dahlia obviously is great. You guys spoiled this one. Dahlia, Idyllic Dreamer, 3 cost, unique ally, ranger automaton, 1 attack, 3 power. Class bonus on attack. Look at the top card of your deck. If it's a water element card, you may put it into your graveyard. Has ranged X, where X is the amount of water element cards in your graveyard. So just like a Lakeside Serpent, but for rangers.
Yeah,
kinda.
we were really happy to spoil this card because I'm very excited to see what X you can get out of this. I'm really pumped. I love cards like that where it promises me a gigantic number if I can do everything right. But better yet, she actually just like sets herself up too. So I mean, we've talked about her a ton in that video, but yeah, she's fun.
We'll move on to Wind. This one of the cards I'm most excited about. Again, I'm just like gushing over Guardian here. But Armored Valkyrie, 3 reserve, ally, Guardian Automaton, Steadfast, which is this ally can retaliate while rested, does not rest to do so. And then class bonus, as long as Armored Valkyrie is retaliating, he gets +2 attack and 2 attack, 2 health. Just everything Tonerus wants to do here.
Yes. Yeah, this card's sick. The stat wise, it's good. 3 for a 2/2 isn't like good. 3 for a 2/3 is like the range where it's like playable. But 3 for a 2/2 with a pile of useful, of like kind of cool abilities, like a 2/2 that guarantees it's going to be able to deal damage back to something is nice. And when you're level 1 when you're at least Tonerus level 1, so you have that class bonus. It's killing anything that's attacking it, and that's where it's like, okay, this is kind of cool. Actually, this is pretty solid.
Oh yeah. Like no one's gonna want to attack into this. It's gonna hurt. Let's see.
That was not the Guardian card I thought you were gonna say right away, though.
Ooh, well, this one is also very cool. Again, spoiled in True Champion Gaming's video. But Rose, Eternal Paragon, 4 reserve, unique ally, Guardian Warrior, Automaton, 2 attack, 3 health, intercept, True Sight, class bonus, fast activation, and level 2+ on enter. You may change the target of an attack to Rose. If you do, Rose gets +1 health until end of turn.
I love Rose. I think Rose is so sick.
Yeah, Rose is fantastic. Like, definitely vying for like top ally in the set. Just so aggressive.
She's 4 is expensive. Like 4 is that range where you're at Cemetery Sentry and you're like I don't know if I want to pay 4 for this right now, but because it means you have to keep 5 cards in hand, especially if you're trying to do the fast activation. You have to pass turn and keep 5 cards in hand. And the awkward thing people are going to find is that with any deck like this, they're going to be tempted to play Gildas. And when you're playing Gildas and playing the Gildas math game, having 5 cards in hand is having 10 cards to get Gildas balanced. And that's too many.
That's not happening in any sort of Gildas ally deck.
It means that you probably aren't getting enough allies on board. Or something weird's happening if you're getting quite that like
you got Ravaging Tempest and you had like 3 allies on board.
Yeah,
and now you have a 10 card hand.
Something like that happened. Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's 1 or 2 cards out of range of being like really sick. So you like as the card pool grows too, like things are going to shift and variants will certainly crop up. I don't think Rose and Gildas play together super well because of her high cost, but I think that Rose warrants her high cost because if anyone's, and maybe it's like a sideboard, maybe like you take out your Gildases and put in Roses or something as like a way to like against the other ally decks to just like get to the mid game and just kind of take control of things. Because as soon as they start attacking you with this thing, it's like, nope, negate your attack and kill your ally. That's that's cool. That's really good. She's really sweet.
Yep. And True Sight is like super relevant here. These ally decks that are going to run her are like they have issues with Snow Fairy and Dream Fairy, the stealth on those, and I think Snow Fairy is 2 health if I'm remembering correctly, and so she just snipes that for free.
Yep.
And then if you can give her a bonus, she gets Dream Fairy too. So just excellent card in the ally mirrors.
I think though, thinking about just a little bit more, so two power isn't quite enough to kill a lot of the things that are actually going to be attacking you against that like 2-3 range is kind of what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. But I think where Rose is going to really shine is that, okay. I've really thought this through a little bit more. So there's still going to be decks that are going to be going for Rending Flames, going for Fiery Momentum, going for gigantic Tonerus swings now. And is she going to survive? No. But is she hold up 5 cards and you can't lose to Rending Flames? Yes. That's pretty sick.
Yeah,
I think.
Very worth.
And then you also retaliate 2 damage back to them, which is like, that's good. Like her real advantage is stopping gigantic champ attacks.
Yes. Yep.
Or actually even, I guess, maybe minor. If they just like try to poke you for 1 with Sword of Seeking, you could just punish them a little bit. Like, no. And also take 2.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There's like a lot of neat things that she can do. Let's see. Cyclonic Strike, again, just excellent card. I'll leave this one to True Champion Gaming because they did such an excellent video on it.
Yeah.
But just a really cool like Guardian sword attack that lets you do weird tricks with your allies and on-enter abilities or things like that. Let's see. In kind of the same vein is per se, Relentless Raptor.
Per se.
Per se.
She's a good card, per se.
Yeah, per se.
Maybe Percy? I don't know.
Yeah. We'll get Still on the Horn and have him confirm all these pronunciations.
Yep.
We've got some other weird ones too. let's see. So 3 cost, unique ally, ranger human, ranged to. It is a 1 attack, 3 health, and it also has tap, suppress target ally, item, or weapon. Activate this ability only if per se is distant. So just a little Zephyr on a stick. Potentially repeatable. Very cool.
This card is super cool. It is not just an opponent's thing. It's your thing. There are some interesting interactions with this. Like, number one, obviously, just like any of your allies that have on enter abilities, you're able to mess with a little bit. Again, I don't think we've seen quite enough of the set to like really have a feel for if Ranger's going to have an identity in there that really like can bounce on enters and use them, but like targeting your opponent's allies, of course, can like shut them down for a turn or something. Something I'm excited about is the fact that it says item or weapon. So obviously, like, weapons are cool to reset their durability if you need to. Items are cool if you want to blink your Tithe Proclamation to draw a free card.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty sweet. Also removes your Tithe Proclamation for the turn. So like, there's maybe a world where you can do like suppress my Tithe Proclamation, draw 1,000,000 cards, end of turn. Oh, you wouldn't be able to draw the card off of it though when it comes back in, because you would have drawn more than 3 at that point. So almost, we were so close. Yeah. But I don't know, it's still cute.
That's still, yeah. You're like, if you're going to draw 1,000,000 cards and then stop your opponent from doing that, like you'll happily take the loss on the on enter from Tithe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. Like lots of sweet things that you can do here. Depending on how easy it is to make things distant or like what cards have that, like she could just be outside of Ranger decks in general and just reset on Foster abilities.
Oh yeah, there's no class bonus on this. I don't know. Yeah. Yep.
Like lots of fun potential here. So
yeah, resetting Foster is going to be an interesting thing to see too. I mean, we didn't really talk about that either, but like with the escape card, with Escape the Wreckage, you can use that to just, after you've already fostered something, if you want to get that foster effect again.
Ooh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, especially if it gets targeted afterwards. Like that's just like, oh, it's Value Town. I love Value Town.
Yes,
I want to live there.
Speaking of things we could potentially reset here for some sweet value, we got Recruitment Officer as well, a 3-cost ally guardian human. I said that weird, sorry. Human. A 1/3 class bonus Foster. On Foster, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal an ally card from among them and put it into your hand. And then you put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So yeah, just a sweet guardian piece that's going to help you keep the cards coming throughout the game.
This is really just the Guardian podcast. Sorry, we tricked you.
Yep. Sorry, guys. But not sorry, because these Guardian decks are sweet. These cards are sweet.
Yep.
That wraps up a lot of these spoilers, actually.
I want to talk about one more, if you don't mind. If I toss
Absolutely.
it in before we sign off here for our inaugural episode of Recollection Step.
Yeah, I'd like to get your kind of thoughts so far on what we've seen overall too before we take up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the last card I want to talk about is Astarte, Celestial Dawn.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So this is an Astra card, which means we don't know much about the context of this, because Astra is going to be, again, Cleric's advanced element. We don't know much about Cleric plays, but let me tell you, I know how this card plays because I've played enough card games. This card's nuts. This is a 3-cost unique ally Cleric human, 2 attack, 4 health, class bonus, fast activation. Okay, and you're this Astra, so for now it's in Cleric already anyway, so that doesn't matter. In the future, maybe different, but for now, that's always in Cleric. If an object would enter the field under opponent's control from anywhere except from the effects stack, banish it face down instead. Okay, so maybe that is also like, it's very Grand Archive style, like kind of gamey wording. But what this is basically saying is, if you've ever played Magic, this is Containment Priest. This is if something would come into play and it wasn't just activated, it wasn't just, you just played it, it just gets banished face down, which is interesting too. This set has a bunch of things that are creating token cards now, summoning tokens. Those do not enter the effect stack. They just would be summoned. So this already is just going to shut down any token shenanigans. We didn't talk about that at all, but there are a number of things that are
there are tokens. Yes. Yep.
But let's talk about Percy again. let's talk about all the cards in like Wind that are like suppressing stuff, and actually they just don't come back anymore when you suppress them. You play your Scepter, your Wind Scepter to just gain some card draw, but sometimes suppress something. Now you have a free just banish target unit, not unit, ally, target ally.
Yes. Yeah, you thought Ventus was good before. It's even better now.
The fact that this has fast activation is what makes this a really excellent card.
Yep.
The opponent is going to suppress their own stuff, perhaps, and expect that it, like a rational human, that will come back, and now it won't. Surprise.
Yep. Yeah, this is going to potentially just ruin a lot of people's days. If you Zephyr to save an ally or anything like that, not even just an ally, any sort of object, right? It's gone forever. It also hits the Majestic Spirit.
I was about to say next, there's some crux targets for this that are scary. Yeah, if your opponent goes Incarnate Majesty, you go ahead, Astarte in response, and they go, oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Spirit Blade Ascension does not seem as scary anymore with this card running around.
If they go for the Ensoul, Spirit Blade Ensoul, sorry. No swords enter. They all get banished.
Oh.
Your opponent would choose. I think they can choose to not put any out then. So so they don't get like totally dunked. But it's they're
probably spending their whole turn to try and Ensoul, and you're
or to Incarnate or something.
Yeah, and you're just going to throw this out casually after doing whatever you did on your turn probably, and just like basically get an extra turn for free with a 2/4 body. Yeah, this card is excellent, and definitely one of the things that got me excited to learn more about Cleric,
which I believe we will be doing very soon. I believe sometime in December we're going to get this final this like big push for the advanced elements and some other stuff. So stay tuned for that. That'll be, I think, Weaves of the Shore and TM32 are going to be putting on something pretty cool here. So
yeah,
that'll be coming.
That's all the cool cards that we've found so far.
There's actually, I think there's a bunch more, but like we're not going to be here all night, right?
Yeah,
so
I shouldn't say all the cool. That's some of the cool cards. There's a lot of really cool cards in this set, but I mean if the fact that we can't just sit here, or we could just sit here and go for another hour and talk about these cards some more, really drives home how excited we are about this set. It looks fantastic. It looks like it's going to be a great follow up to Dawn of Ashes and Fractured Crown, and really round out their the 7 plant classes really, really nicely.
Yeah, I'm what I'm looking forward to in this set, especially seeing all these things, other than dunking on people with Guardian, is I think we're going to start to see each class really start to come into its own particular playing style. And you're going to, if you are a Grand Archive player, I think we're going to start to get into more of that mentality of you are going to maybe consider becoming a class specialist, a class master. We're going to have a little bit more of this sort of like specialist play style where, because the meta is too wide to really tech for everything, you just want to become like, there'll be some metagaming. It'll be like, you know what, Cleric's really good right now. There's some good combo decks and stuff, but you might start to just really specialize in, I like the play style of Ranger. I'm going to play a lot of Ranger. We expect to see future sets having a range of support for everything, and then using those level 3 champions and advanced elements to kind of create exciting change ups to how different things can play, rather than some games which just say, well, this set is for warrior and mage and cleric, like, you know, and then everything else gets nothing, whatever. I think Grand Archive is going to be a little more, from what we understand, unless things change, a little more diverse, allowing constant support to be flowing in for everything, which means that if you like these play styles in Alchemical Revolution, you're going to be able to sort of settle yourself in to becoming a master of cleric, becoming a master of mage. And I'm a fan of that. And I feel like we're seeing that from these previews are showing very distinct play styles for each of we didn't really talk about hardly any cleric ones, but cleric obviously has its own huge set of distinct things.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that specialization.
Yep. Yeah, I think that is going to be really neat, and that's going to help players really like latch on to, they'll find something that really like gets their hooks into them, and they'll want to stick with that. And I think it's a really smart move on Weeb's part. Also just really smart that a lot of these cards aren't like defined only by class bonuses. There's a lot of really strong cards here that are just generically strong, and you can kind of play them in whatever deck where they fit. You don't have to throw all your Guardian cards into just the Guardian deck. Like there's a lot of overlap that is going to let a lot of classes get more support than they might if they're not the main focus of a set moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing, like number one, that helps like enable draft formats, which I'm very excited just to see how like Sealed and Draft will play with this as Weebs continues to sort of like hone in on what they want that to play like. But similar to our hybrid triple threat deck from Ascent, my gears are already turning a little bit, thinking like, so what if you have a deck that goes to Guardian against allies, but goes to Warrior against open board decks? Like I'm thinking like there's going to be some interesting overlap in between cards that'll make some of that stuff a little more possible. And that's where I think like there's going to be some really cool, I think, meta developments that'll happen if people are willing to explore those options a little more.
Definitely. Yes. Any other last notes you want to hit before we sign off?
I think that's pretty good. I think we're good to sign off, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope everyone enjoyed your presence here.
Well, yeah, thank you. I enjoyed my presence here, so it was a good time. I'm happy to get this going, and excited to keep podcasting in the future. So
definitely.
So it looks like we have resolved all of our Merlin triggers here, and we've leveled up and drawn our card. So that's been the Recollection Step. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode with another fun topic. Probably won't be spoilers, but if we're lucky, it might be.
Yeah, if we're lucky. Absolutely. I can't wait for it. We'll see you guys all at that one.
Okay, thanks.